I'm Media Director Holly Andrews. Today, we're talking about something that separates strong brands from struggling ones almost immediately. Confidence. Not confidence in a speech, not confidence in a sales pitch, confidence in your media choices. Because whether businesses realize it or not, your media strategy says something about your brand before consumers even hear your commercial. Where you're advertising matters. How consistently you show up matters. What environments your brand aligns with, that matters too. And one of the biggest differences between powerful brands and forgettable brands is this. Strong brands make intentional media choices. Weak brands choose random opportunities. Today, we're diving into why confidence matters in your media strategy, how hesitation weakens branding, and why the strongest advertisers don't just buy media, they own positions in the market. Every media buy communicates something. Every station, every platform, every sponsorship, and every placement. Consumers may not consciously analyze it, but they absolutely feel it. Strong brands look established. They're visible. They're intentional. They're consistent. When a business confidently owns premium environments over time, consumers begin associating that brand with success. That's why you see major advertisers dominate the local news, weather sponsorship, traffic, sports, major events. Those placements create what I like to call psychological authority. It's a big word, but authority matters because consumers are naturally drawn towards businesses that appear in stable and trusted places. Now, compare that to inconsistent advertising. A business runs heavy one month, disappears the next, changes messages consistently, and jumps between random platforms. That creates uncertainty, and uncertainty weakens the trust. And when you have weakened trust, well, that's going to weaken your brand. Confidence in a media strategy creates familiarity, and familiarity builds credibility and trust, well, it builds your brand. One of the biggest problems in advertising right now is chasing trends. There's so many new widgets out there, and everybody wants to be a part of it. Every week, there's a new secret, a new platform, a new tactic, a new marketing hack, and businesses panic. They think, are we behind? Should we move everything? What are we missing out on? But confident brands understand something important. Not every trend actually deserves your budget. Strong strategy is not about chasing everything. It's about knowing what aligns with your audience and with your brand. Confidence allows businesses to stay focused because when brands lack confidence, they constantly abandon long-term strategy for short-term excitement. And that creates fragmented branding. One month they're focused on reach, the next month on clicks, then influencers, then they're focused on streaming and promotions and discounts. There's no consistency, there's no identity, there's no stability. Confident brands, however, evolve strategically, not emotionally. They test thoughtfully and adapt. Well, they adapt intelligently, but they don't throw away strong foundations every time the industry gets excited about something new. One thing businesses underestimate is this. Your media placement also influences perception. Consumers judge brands by the environments that they appear in. If your brand consistently appears in premium, trusted spaces, then the consumers transfer that credibility to your business. This is why sponsorships matter. This is why news positioning matters. This is why sports alignment matters. This is why consistency matters. Media, it's not just distribution. Media creates association. For example, a business heavily aligned with local news often feels more established and more trustworthy. A business tied to major sports programming, well, they feel larger and more dominant. A business consistently visible during weather or traffic reports, they feel familiar and dependable in the customer's mind. These are what we called emotional impressions. They happen subconsciously. And over time, those associations, well, they become part of the brand identity. Confident media strategy, well, we understand this. It's not about ratings, it's about perception. Of course, ratings and efficiency and all of that is extremely important, but it has to be perceived that you have a strong and solid brand. One of the biggest dangers in advertising is hesitation. When a brand says, should I do this? Should I not do this? Brands that consistently second guesses themselves create inconsistent visibility. And when you have inconsistent visibility, it weakens your market presence. Here's what happens. You see, a business starts branding strong and aggressively. Then they get nervous. Then they reduce frequency too quickly. They pull campaigns too early. They cut their strong placements, and they move budgets randomly. But a lot of times they just panic because competitors appear louder for 1 week, or a competitor is in another medium. But branding's not built overnight. Don't have knee-jerk reactions. Strong branding requires staying power. You see, consumers need repeated exposure before trust ever develops. This is why confident brands maintain strategic consistency, even when immediate results may not be obvious. But confidence understands branding is cumulative. You have to build equity within a platform or station. Every impression builds on the previous one. You see, businesses that consistently interrupt their own momentum often restart the branding process all over again. And that is when it gets expensive. Confidence allows brands to stay committed long enough for awareness to become familiar, and familiarity to become their preference. Now let's be clear. Confidence should never mean guessing. Real confidence is built on research, understanding, and experience. The strongest media buyers aren't confident because they hope something worked. They're confident because they understand the audience, the market, the ratings. They understand your consumer's behavior. They know the competition and what they're doing. And they understand the media landscape and environment. You see, confidence grows when strategy is supported by information and data. That's why research matters so much before a campaign even begins, because uncertainty decreases when preparation increases. It's just like studying for a test. You go in more confident when you've studied and done your research than not studying the night before. No platform works alone. Strong campaigns usually involve layers. So let's break this down just a little bit. Television, well, that builds trust and reach. Radio may create frequency and familiarity. Digital reinforces targeting and conversion and performance. Outdoor billboards create dominance. Sponsorships, well, that deepens emotional association with the consumer. You see, confidence comes from understanding how all of the pieces and parts work together. not from blindly chasing one magic solution. So you can really tell how strong a brand is during difficult seasons because uncertainty brands disappear. Confident brands, they adapt strategically and they don't go away. Now, that doesn't mean reckless spending. It means protecting visibility strategically, intellectually. Strong brands, well, they understand something that many businesses actually forget. Silence creates vulnerability. When brands suddenly just disappear from the market, consumers notice, even subconsciously, and competitors immediately gain space in the consumer's mind due to that competitor going dark. You see, confidence and confident advertisers understand how to adjust without disappearing and going dark. Maybe they reduce some frequency, or maybe think about consolidating around some stronger placements. Maybe they shift towards sponsorships or high valued integrations with the media, but they stay visible, protect the brand, because confidence understands long-term positioning matters more than short-term fear. And often, businesses that maintain visibility during uncertain times, well, they emerge stronger because competitors went dark. A perfect example is during the pandemic. A lot of companies and businesses went dark, pulled off the air, pulled off all their advertising, and the ones that protected their buys, of course they had to pull back on their budgets and be realistic, but they never went dark. And guess which ones became number one in the market when we bounced back from that pandemic? You got it. It's the brands that did not go dark. The brands that went dark totally, they're starting like it was day one, building their brand again. That's expensive. Now, one of my favorite things to watch in advertising is when a brand truly owns the space, the market. Not just media buying, but owning a position, owning morning news. They own the weather forecast, own sports, or they own in their geographic area. They dominate their backyard, or they dominate a specific behavior, demographic, and audience. Those brands feel larger because their visibility feels intentional and consistent. It feels like the brand is actually talking to me, talking to you directly. Consumers begin to expect to see them there. And expectation, well, that creates authority. That's why strategic repetition matters so much. The brands that win long term are usually not the brands trying to be everywhere. They're the brands that became unforgettable somewhere specific. You see, confidence, it allows businesses to commit deeply instead of spreading themselves way too thin. Because dominance beats randomness every single time. And at the end of the day, confidence is visible. Consumers can feel when a brand believes in itself. They feel consistency, they can feel stability, and your media strategy is one of the loudest signals your brand sends to the market. Strong brands don't consistently panic. They don't even chase every trend. They don't abandon strategy every month. You see, they understand who they are. They understand their audience. And strong brands, they make intentional media choices that reinforce their identity time over time. Because media is not just where your ads appear, it's where your reputation grows. This is Holly Andrew. Remember, always stay true to your brand. Now be sure you subscribe to my channel for more stories and strategies behind the Maple Box.